It's like listening to an old man pee.
You have a lot of experience with that?
Just listening to
Maybe.
Maybe I'm a bathroom attendant.
Hey, we all have our weird hobbies, okay? God.
Hey everyone, you're listening to GenreBot. I'm Adam.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Vic.
I'm told that I'm Theo.
And we're here for a special GenreBot Watches Blade.
The much anticipated activity that we're finally doing.
On the show and in our own lives.
Right. Yes. Well, first of all, Theo's been with us before for our original superhero movie.
Yeah.
And it's actually great that he's here because this was an argument he and I had way back in college. And then it extended into GenreBot with my cousins.
Yeah, an argument that I had with Victor. And Andrew's are kind of, he's our safe, now, you saw one.
I've only seen one Blade movie.
Okay, so the way it works is that there's these Blade movies, you see, with Wesley Snipes and Blade, and he goes and he
and
fights
other
with swords.
characters.
And Chris Christopherson, come on.
Yeah, he fights vampires, and
And Patton Oswalt.
there's
In
three.
the third one, yeah.
Yeah, 3 movies. The third one sucks, but the first one's good, and the second one's good too. But we're arguing if the first one or the second one is better.
Right. So this will actually be a pretty short segment on your end. For us, it's going to take all night. We're going to watch 2 movies, and we're just going to talk a little bit after the first one, and then we're going to try to come to a logical ruling after the second one.
Yeah. So, any thoughts about the first movie before we get started? Like, what do you recall about it? Or
Well, we should just go right into it saying the 3 of us have seen both movies, the 3 being me, Theo, and Adam. And I believe, personally, I like the first one better. I like them both, but I thought the first one just was
like
a little
one or
bit...
two perks about it.
I felt like it was a little bit... I don't know what words to use. It didn't feel as much like a superhero movie to me as it did with like kind of noir, almost like mysterious, gritty underground kind of thing, and it wasn't. I liked the small scale of it, and I don't know. Something about its simplicity made me feel simpler than the second one.
Yeah, Andrew, you have any comments about it?
I think it's incomparable to the second one.
Not compared to the second
really
one.
no comparison
Just
to be
on its
made.
own. You saw it once. What did you think of it the one time you saw it? You were like, oh, hey, this is Wesley.
It was alright. It's got that weird... TV Tropes calls this the Seinfeld effect, where, like, when kids see Seinfeld today, they don't think it's funny.
Because they've seen every element of it.
They've seen every show that copies it. And so, like, I've seen, like, The Dark Knight and stuff, and, like, all these sort of dark superhero movies that all came out of Blade and X-Men a lot.
Yeah, that type of stuff.
Like I will say I hate the end. The last 20 minutes.
We'll do that right after.
Yeah, but like I feel like just the majority of the movie.
That's my least favorite part too. If it were all like the first part of it, I would say it was very good.
And before we get started, Theo, any notes about the first one?
I mean, I think Vic's wrong about a number of things, but this specifically.
That'll be the whole night proving or disproving that.
No, I really enjoy the first Blade movie. We actually talked about this on our podcast briefly, I think on our comic book episode.
That's a matter of taste.
A matter of taste. It's actually quite apropos that I'm here for this because I was on your superhero episode.
That's
and
right.
my podcast is a horror podcast.
So now we're watching a horror superhero.
Yeah, that's right. I feel bad Ian can't be here, but he lives in Syracuse, so it's not going to happen.
So he's kind of out of luck on this one. But Blade is interesting because it basically started the superhero boom, but does not get credit for it.
No, everyone says X-Men, but this came first.
This came before X-Men. Yeah.
Oh, well, let's find out what we thought of it after we see it.
Didn't give your opinion.
I like it, but I thought the CGI effects were kind of dated. Like, look, when I saw it in high school.
I'm gonna say
distractingly dated.
In our retrospective here, I'm gonna bring up exactly what scene I think it is the worst for that.
Is it the Kid Picks blood tornado?
Is it the blood drop?
Anyway,
we'll see them all. Okay.
We'll get to all
All
this.
right.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to you once we're finished.
All right. See you then.
Bye.
Wesley Snipes, Stephen Dorff.
You're one of them, aren't you?
No, I'm something else. Blade.
All right, we just finished watching Blade. We're gonna go around the table and say what you liked and what you didn't like. Andrew.
I really liked the action. Like, it's probably one of the best movies for that I've seen recently. Like, there's a lot of blood and a lot of people turning into smoke.
Right.
Specific moments I liked were there was just one guy who, like the guy with the beard, who just kept getting beat up, like in various amazing ways, and healing because he's immortal.
Well, his whole thing in the movie was letting the audience know how vampires can regenerate.
Right.
Yeah, no, he was the dragon. Although he had a scar that never, like his whole body was scarred from the burns, but he never, only, like, that one part
After
remained.
the train.
Oh, the train, that's what that was.
Yeah, they freshened that up.
I approve then. Any dislikes, Andrew?
Dislikes.
Just anything that pops in your head off the...
I guess the effects are sort of dated, but what's more dated is Wesley Snipes' hairstyle in this.
Yeah, they're very true.
It's very ridiculous.
All right. Victor?
But I have no story complaints.
I agree that I think the action is amazing. I think it's actually a story that's not bad. It's a story I feel like is worth telling.
It's simple.
Where it's like the scale is pretty small, but still like dire. You know, it's like it needs to be dealt with. I really like the aesthetic of it. I just feel like it's just a neat.
It's got a nice look to it.
Yeah,
I definitely.
It has a great aesthetic, and it's just fun. You know, I enjoy this movie, and it's very quotable. We said that throughout the whole thing.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, this movie has so many amazing quotes by Wesley Snipes. You know, and it's
Almost
like
every one of his
it's like
lines.
Wesley Snipes doing like black vampire hunting Batman, which is awesome in so many ways. So that's definitely the likes.
Dislikes?
Dislikes. Well, I agree that the effects are a little dated, but I don't think that's really... It's funny, I don't really want to blame movies for that, because it's like, it's not their fault, it's the effects, it's whatever they had at the time.
Yeah.
I think that some of the problems are... It gets a little campy at some points.
Oh, which ones were you...
The end gets a little...
Oh yeah, the end.
Oh, yeah.
Very campy.
It's funny because like the
kid
kid when I was a kid I said this before, I had the PS1 Blade video game, which is by no means a good video game. But the game did a better job of making the zombies make more sense because they were like a villain that were really hard to beat. In the movie, it was like a really stupid scene where they bring
Just
back...
one scene, too.
Yeah, they bring back the guy for like no time at all, and he's not really a threat, and it was kind of dumb. Like, I feel like they tried to jam a lot of things in that could have had potential, but they didn't get fleshed out. It's not without its flaws. I feel like it's funny because I was watching it. I've seen this movie a bunch of times, but when we started, I was like, I just realized they never explain why vampires are bad and why Blade's trying to kill them all.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a takeaway where yes, you understand to a certain extent that some vampires are bad, but they never explain why Blade's like genocidal.
Yeah, no, they all need to die.
They all gotta go.
100% has to get
What
out.
about the Edward Cullens who are like, I eat animal blood and I love you?
To end on a good note,
we're not talking about bronze dragons.
I do think it's great that because
Oh.
I have a big pet peeve about origins, and this movie did a good job of telling us the origin without showing us the origin story. Like
There was no, solid flashbacks.
This was
There
not
was-
an origin story,
Yeah.
but we did learn his origin through exposition,
Which is- yeah,
and
that's a
it
very
wasn't
good
that
superhero.
it wasn't that clunky of an exposition, so I was okay with it.
Alright.
So yeah, that's me.
Great.
Yep.
Theo?
I'm going to concur with Victor on that. I like the fact that it's not an origin story, and I actually have no issue with camp whatsoever.
Yeah.
Actually, on our podcast, we just got done talking about Repo, the genetic opera, so I'm more than geared up for just dark, gory camp.
Right.
Like, I'm fine with that.
Oh, Repo.
I think it's a really well done movie. I think it's incredibly impressive what legacy followed it, and we do bring this up a couple of times on A Matter of Taste, that it's really a shame that Blade doesn't get talked about more as the first really big successful Marvel movie.
Yeah, kind of grandfather to...
Yeah.
It really did. It fathered a whole generation of movies.
Although there's like whispers in the wind of an MCU Blade property, whether it's on Netflix or a proper movie.
Marvel got Blade back.
Yeah, I think
they do have the rights.
Honestly, I think a Blade Netflix series would be really good.
Dude, with Daredevil, holy stuff. Holy stuff, would that be good?
Yes, that would be excellent. I think a Blade and Robbie
Perfect
Reyes, a Blade
Flawless.
Netflix
They'll
series
never know.
and a Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider Netflix series would be awesome.
yes,
definitely.
yes.
Your dislikes.
That said, I do have issues with it. The entire third act is nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the chosen one, Blade.
There's-
now I
there's-
have a katana for no reason.
Also, the biggest flaw of this movie is Steven Dorff. I'm sorry, he's not a good villain.
Oh, Frost.
He's just
Yeah.
You're not down with the dwarf.
like he's-
Oh, I get it. You're
he's-
like that bully in high school that just is still the
he's
high
not-
school bully.
Yeah, he's not threatening at all.
yeah, that sums it up pretty
and then
well.
there's also the fact that like he has such poorly explained plot armor throughout the movie. Like there's no reason he's just some dude. He's just a dude.
He doesn't have
like
villain gravitas to him.
yeah, he has no presence, and then also it's like, well, I'm in the sun because I wore sunblock. It's like, no,
A lot of
and then he's like, I know everything about you, Blade,
But we never
nobody
know
says
why.
how.
Yeah.
like
I pointed that out.
Yeah.
I was like, wait,
He
wait.
hacked it.
We never.
He hacked the
They never
knowledge.
told us how.
he's like, I know about Whistler.
Yeah, or
I
he's-
know about your.
or he's decoding like the prophecy or whatever, and
no one's been able to do that for
and he-
centuries.
and he just does it.
He just-
says
yeah,
complete.
he just-
oh, I guess I got it right.
I'm Steven Dorff. There are no rules for me.
he just does it with the help of a giant grotesque vampire thing. There's a
why?
reference.
That's-
There's a reference there.
Is that a
but I'm not getting it.
It's not so like you are a Marvel Comics expert. You literally have a doctorate in it.
That none of that is true. I do read a lot of Marvel though.
But
I'm a Marvel
Did you
guy.
read Blade?
I did not. No.
Okay. Are you familiar with it?
I'm a little
Was
bit.
that in there?
Not from what
That
I
guy
know.
was so fat.
It was a girl.
was-
It was
no, it's a
lady.
guy.
No, it's a guy.
Oh, it was a guy.
It's a guy named
That's
Pearl.
racist.
a guy named
That's
Pearl with a
racist.
girl's like inflection.
Interesting.
It wasn't
Is
a
that-
girl's inflection. It was like a
It's
chipmunk.
just
like
has a
high
very-
pitched.
Oh,
Yeah.
like an
one sec on that.
artificial-
Okay, so my take, like I said, like everyone's been saying, action is really good, really fluid. Nowadays, a lot of action sequences are very shaky cam. Like this was,
You watched it happen.
you watched
Yeah.
it happen, which is really good. And yeah, I love Blade's like arsenal and like all the kind of gadgets and gizmos and
That
stuff.
automatic
like
pistol.
Yeah, that's cool. And the
Money.
sword that has the extra, like, just in case. That's cool. And I like Whistler in it when he's in it. So although I'll wait until the second one to explain, because that's always been a mystery for me, like what Whistler's
We'll
doing.
get there, yeah,
Can,
we'll
can we talk about how much Blade's mom almost made out with him in this movie? Because it's a lot.
It's a vampire thing. I brought up Buffy when we were watching
Vampires
it.
do have an inherent sensuality about their mythos.
I mean, we could talk about that all day. That's kind of the point.
yeah, we're not going to get into it.
That's-
but that
that's-
is a thing.
Yeah, cons for me, definitely the once again, like the first time I saw it, I felt the CGI was dated, in just like the way that, say, the T1000, like his fluid mechanics look good today, but the fluid CGI in this movie does not look good. Like all the blood droplets look too individual and too
Yeah.
perfect and shiny and like.
There's a part where Steven Dorff gets cut in half, like Darth Maul style.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It becomes a Kid Pix blood tornado. Like a blood tornado created in Kid Pix.
But the thing that
Yeah.
I'll be honest, and this is just a personal thing, and not everyone feels this way, but for me, it's like I have a good enough imagination that I can see that and think maybe they didn't have the budget or whatever. It's like I get what they're going for.
Yeah.
like that. It doesn't really ruin the
it-
experience for me. Like I'll still give them stuff for it and be like, that's you could have done better there. But like I still
Exactly.
I'll still be like, all right, we'll finish the scene and then I'll criticize you.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, so-
Yeah, I'm much more critical of the fact that an ancient vampire temple was hidden in like downtown any city under like a
Yeah, no, that
under
was-
like a
that was a
construction
big
site that's
point.
clearly like people were there.
Yeah.
But we get introduced to it like they forgot about this place.
Yeah.
Nobody's been here for
all that stuff
1,000
about
years.
all that stuff about prophecy
It's
and
up
the
to people that
chosen
made the
one.
building.
Like I was like, I'm like, why is this plot?
And
in here?
I
Somebody,
stand by
if somebody could explain to me how a katana got into an ancient vampire temple in Coast City, USA,
yeah,
I
right.
would be thrilled.
Oh, yeah.
again,
It
moments...
can't be Coast City because Coast City's on the West Coast.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, we were wondering what city it took place in, and we were saying like New York, Chicago, I don't know. It's
clearly Metropolis.
Somebody said L.A. and then Theo was like, no, it can't be L.A. because the sun rose over the ocean, and we were all blown away.
Oh my God, you're right.
Like, whoa, that's how geography
It's late,
works.
and everybody has a very low threshold for getting blown away by stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't watch Blade at the daytime.
Yeah. No.
That's true. It's just not
the
thematically
Doesn't make
appropriate.
sense.
And the giant fat vampire dude, like that scene, I did not.
It
sit
comes
well
out
with
of
me.
nowhere.
Well, let me...
It comes out of nowhere, and it leaves out of nowhere.
Yeah,
too.
it offers really nothing to the plot.
Why did this happen?
Actually, no, because that's how Blade finds out about
He gets
what's-
information.
Yes.
but
It's the Darth
Although
Vader. It's the
intimidating
Darth
anyone.
Vader cave of
This
this
is
movie.
this is the thing though. Like yes,
Yes.
he gets that information, but I mean when
what
reading like on fiction, I never heard anything that they were like, and in the second act you must offer a gigantic corpulent vampire in order to give exposition and progress your plot.
Right.
Well, let's do this now. Before we finish, let's say like, okay, rate the movie.
Oh, 8 out of 10.
8.
Probably. Yeah, that seems about right.
2 Amazing Spider-Mans, which is the maximum score for any movie. I have a whole rating system.
If we're gonna go on record with this, then we need to explain it.
Okay,
We've
the
talked
Amazing
about it before.
The Amazing Spider-Man is the most 5 out of 10 movie I've ever seen. So I judge all movies as either 0, 1, or 2 Amazing Spider-Man.
So
the
basically-
lack of resolution makes more people agree.
So basically, he gives it a 5+ instead of a 5 or 5 minus.
There's no room for nuance there.
Yeah, okay.
It's
So
it's
simple.
somewhere between a 5 and a 10.
Victor, what's your score?
Exactly.
I'll give it a solid 8.
Yeah.
Like 8, I would say if I was going to be much more nitpicky, it could be closer to like 8.5. Because I honestly think it's a very good movie.
It's a good origin story. It's a really good origin story.
It's not really though. It's a good introduction to a character.
Good way to point. Not a good origin, but it introduced without
This
doing too much
movie
origin.
this movie makes me care about Blade. Makes me want to see more stories about Blade. So like I definitely give it a very solid 8 to 8.5 out of 10 because yes, it has flaws and it is a little dated, but I do still think it's a good movie.
Okay. Theo?
I'm actually really uncomfortable with any form of numerical rating. I really
That's
don't like
why
it at all.
art is subjective. That's why I invented the Spider-Man system.
But given that you asked me, I would give it a solid 4 Molgoths to Blade 2's 5 latex and PVC aficionados.
As of now.
I'm a high school teacher, so it's very easy for me to numerize grades. Like, so just put it in your own words. Like, what's your evaluation of the movie?
Yeah, no, that's just
Yeah, no. That was something.
that was
How
the
many
Molgoth
of the
joke.
Amazing Spider-Mans
okay.
would you give it?
Yeah. You're saying
I'm
that,
not comfortable with that rating.
You're
It seems
saying
to me that
It's a really tough system.
to your current
By the
Blade
way,
2 is
the
like
Amazing
one above.
Spider-Man 2,
Yes.
0 Amazing Spider-Mans. Wrap your head around that one.
Okay, so before we hop into this, Andrew, you have not seen Blade 2, right?
I have not seen Blade 2.
Okay.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
All I know about it is there's super vampires that kind of look like the Predator.
And
Actually,
then
that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
And Blade's in it.
Any thoughts, like we did earlier, thoughts about Blade 1 going into it, thoughts about Blade 2 going
into Blade 2.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a while, and I do want to be very open-minded because this is an argument that I've been having with you guys for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, so watching this one, I want to focus on a couple things. How well it follows up on the first movie,
Yeah, okay.
and but also at the same time, how much does it hold up as its own story?
Oh, all right.
Because I do actually think Blade 1 told a story that made sense.
It's a very simple story, but it made a lot of sense.
Right, and
was very self-contained.
I liked the simplicity. I liked that it wasn't like, oh, we're saving the whole world. It's like, no, you're just dealing with
And,
like
until
one thing.
next time, no, they
Yeah, it was resolved. Yeah, so like I want to see like, okay, how does this hold up as its own story, but also a follow up to this first movie?
All right.
So that's it.
And Theo?
I find Blade 2 to be one of the most beautifully, aggressively Del Toro being Del Toro movies of all time. There's stuff in jars, there's plastic sheets.
Wait a minute, this is Del Toro?
Yeah, no, he mentioned that earlier. He's like, it's Del Toro. I'm like,
it's
you have my
Guillermo Del Toro.
attention now.
He's never done anything wrong.
I think this is
Ever.
This is the
He
first
made Pacific Rim.
I think this is the first movie he did after Chronos, I want to say.
Huh.
No, it might have been after Devil's Backbone. I'm not positive.
Okay.
This was like his first big American movie, though.
Yeah.
From what I recall, this was like his American debut, and this is what put him on people's radar so that he could do Hellboy and
but not Blade 3.
Become that. Yeah, he wasn't touching that. And become the big, delightful, hairy man that we all love.
Yeah, no, I remember Blade 2 as just kind of like...
He should make a Silent Hill game. But never mind.
It's a podcast, so you're missing the best part of this, which was just the look on Vic's face as he said that.
I remember Blade 2, in my memory, watching the first time, Blade 1 was kind of, like whatever, lateral move, but Blade 2 was like kind of a step up. Like, I like the team aspect of it, I like the kind of... They took it a notch above, and I appreciate every moment of it. So,
I'm excited to check it out.
yeah, let's watch Blade 2.
Let's go watch it for Harambe.
We're probably going to cut that.
Wesley Snipes.
Not know who you are.
Messing with! Blade 2.
Alright, we are back for Blade 2.
Well, some of us are.
Yes.
The majority, in fact.
3 out of 4 of us are back for Blade 2.
Yeah, we watched it at night, and it's about 2 o'clock in the morning now. Victor has fallen asleep because he found a couch.
Yeah,
Those are all the ingredients that Victor needs.
He falls asleep very easily.
the way this works is that we saw this happening, and it happened in front of our eyes. That Victor was unable to stay with.
We were roughly 3/4 of the way through the first act,
Yeah.
if I recall.
I tried playing the Batman theme and Avril Lavigne and the Danny Phantom theme, and none of it worked.
We attempted making several disparaging comments.
We did the best we could.
Unwarranted
He's gonna say
disparaging
in the
comments
morning and-
about his favorite things.
Honestly, he'll likely...
I was just like, you know who's overrated, guys? Batman. And he woke up a little bit and he was like, what, who?
He did pick himself up a little bit at that.
Yeah.
but he was out, and we all knew he was out.
In the end,
so.
he was too far gone. He was already turned.
Which is unfortunate because it seems like he's the only one who dissents from the true and correct and pure and right opinion that Blade 2 is better than Blade 1.
All those in favor of Blade 2 being better than Blade 1,
Say aye. Just aye.
Yes, or make some odd hand signals as we've been discussing.
Yeah, so,
they're all present at this table.
So the way this will work, I guess, is I'm sure he'll do the thing where he'll say, he'll wake up tomorrow and say, oh, wait, what happened? and he'll have to weigh in. So I imagine he'll watch Blade 2 on his own time and have something to say or another. I'll tack that onto this, but in the meantime, what did we think of Blade 2? Andrew, pros and cons.
Andrew hasn't seen it yet, so
this
is
your first time seeing Blade 2. What did you think?
Please.
Yeah. Well, I thought with the fact that Guillermo Del Toro directed it, there was a lot more Guillermo Del Toro-ness.
What are some of those key things that you'd say?
Key things, I would say, body horror and freakiness, but a very specific brand of it.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
The really pale Nosferatu looking guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the predator mouths that open up.
Oh yeah.
And that scene where the guy gets destroyed by the sunlight, but half of his face is still alive. That's very, very Del Toro.
Oh, and the eyes still blinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of all over it.
But the lighting is different. The music is different. It's very there's a style.
Yeah. Color is a big thing with Del Toro, and there's a lot of just this scene is all yellow. This scene's all purple.
Right. Which whoever directed the first Blade movie didn't do a bad job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even more than a movie like Jurassic World, which anyone could have directed. But
yeah, right.
This was there was a style to it, but it's not nearly as distinctive as Del Toro, to the point where I don't even know who directed Blade 1.
Right.
Steven something?
I actually meant to look it up, but forgot about it because I got too engrossed in Blade 2. That's...
Yeah,
I think...
If that's not...
Yeah, the thing is, like, Blade 1 isn't poorly directed. It's just... It's very workmanlike. Which is fine. It seems like
a good way to put it.
It seems like it's damning with faint praise, but like there's some really good stuff in Blade 1. Like the action directing is really well done, and we praised that when we talked about it. Like it's nice that you see this. And okay, we can quibble over how much of this is Wesley Snipes' own input. That
True.
He very much insists on that like kung fu movie aesthetic where you can see everything that's going on. But that's a lot to praise in the Blade movies.
And what was weird is that was in the first one, and it was like in this next one as well, the Blade 2, then +1 a little bit. Like the camera jumped a few more times, but you still followed all the action.
Yeah, no, you can. It was still directed really well. You could still follow the chain of action, but I mean, Del Toro's an auteur. Like you watch his stuff.
He's an auteur.
He's an auteur.
Del Toro.
But you watch his stuff and you know it's him. Like you can show somebody a Del Toro film without telling them that he did it, and they know that he did it because he has a very distinct signature. And then also, he has a ton of things that he throws into every film that he does. Like weird stuff in jars and... You know, I was pointing out to you every time it showed up, like the circular set design.
Yeah,
everything has
like
arches. Everything in a Del Toro film has arches.
Which, as a person who works behind the scenes at a museum, weird stuff in jars hit a little too close to home. I felt like I was at work. I didn't like those parts of the movie.
Well, yeah, he's obsessed with them. He loves weird stuff in jars.
So if Guillermo Del Toro came to my place of work, I could give him a tour? And then he would show me Pacific Rim 2?
Yes, we can all dream. Although,
wow.
in Philly, knowing Del Toro, I would say he'd probably go to the Mutter Museum first.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way Del Toro would go to the Mutter
So any cons
it's beautiful.
Anything that you weren't too crazy about this Blade 2 movie, Andrew? Anything that struck you differently?
It seemed like there was a lot going on, and maybe this is because I got a contact sleepiness from Victor, who I was sitting right next to, but I kind of zoned out for a lot of it. I never fell asleep, but I was like just kind of, like I would just kind of come back in and like Blade's fighting a vampire. I'm like, okay, so whatever. Fade out, fade back in. Blade's fighting a vampire. Fade out, a vampire's fighting a super vampire. Which is not nearly as ridiculous as I thought it was going to be.
No, yeah, I'm glad that you kind of you turned around on that.
That is why I made that sarcastic comment when we were walking. Andrew made a comment saying, like, super vampires, could there be anything stupider? And I asked him if he was tired of being wrong.
I think the record will show that I am definitely not.
Just to clarify the joke, but...
anything against it, or anything that you thought Blade 1 did better than Blade 2?
I mean, on paper, that is like a 6-year-old's idea.
Yeah, true.
It is.
What's the only thing that can kill a vampire?
Better vampire.
A vampire to vampire.
A vampire's vampire.
But I mean, the merit of ideas is all in execution when it comes to
good way to put
this
it.
sort of thing.
The merit of ideas is in execution.
Yeah,
you can have very simplistic ideas, but if you execute it well, then you did it well. And I think like it is a very simplistic idea for escalation in that, like, okay, he fought vampires, so why doesn't he fight vampires?
And now he's teaming up with the vampires beforehand. It's perfect sequel material.
And then he teams up with the vampires. It is very simplistic escalation tactics, but
it works.
It's executed very well.
Yeah, the part at the very end where like the vampire girl dies in his arms by like turning to dust in the sunlight. That I thought was really interesting because like normally when a vampire turns to dust in one of these movies, it's like, oh good, one of 10,000 vampires in the past 5 seconds to explode. But this one, they did the same exact thing they've been doing, but gave it like poignancy. poignancy.
Gave it weight.
Poignancy.
Poignancy.
There you go.
It's late. It's very, very late.
Poignancy.
Poignancy.
There you go.
Yeah, right. No, so
Buckler.
so basically, we're all this one versus Blade One.
Mario.
Are we all saying better? The three of us?
It's better. I mean,
You can tell the special effects budget went up.
I was saying that 7 years ago, but
unfortunately,
I think it's here decided.
Yeah.
Permanently and forever.
And
engraved in the rock wall that is Audacity.
And again, not that I suddenly decided 7 years ago that it was better. It was that's when the argument with Weak Thor started. But there are points to criticize, and I was talking to Adam about this briefly when the movie was going on. It's really interesting when they use CGI in fight scenes.
It's not something you see nowadays.
Yeah, and it's
bad.
It was
very
bad.
definitive.
It's not a good thing to do.
It was a time in Hollywood when they were saying, should we do this or should we not do this?
Yeah, and then they realized that they shouldn't. No,
well, I think a
resounding no.
Well, I think the difference is that's like a stylistic CGI. Like the screen freezes and it spins around and like who cares?
That's not even what I'm talking about.
But then there's
the full CGI bodies that we saw.
Yeah. Right. That is dumb.
Yeah.
But like good CGI is stuff that you can't tell when it's CGI.
Right.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. And that was almost the time when the technology was so young that you could, as soon as you tell it's bad CGI, it loses its effect.
Also, the practical effects.
The ones that we saw,
they're so good.
When the super vampires have their alien tongues that come out. Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, when they're done CGI, they're not terrible. They're just obviously CGI. But when they do them practical, they're like breathtaking. That's such a cool apparatus that it's got like the whole like pull open thing.
Yeah. Like I said,
they did Predator and Alien better than Alien versus Predator.
very true.
No, I'd agree.
Yeah, no. I guess the plan is that this is the way this usually works. Is Victor will in the morning say, "Oh man, I can't believe I did that," and rewatch it on his own and have his own.
Well,
thoughts,
he'll have to take some time to rewatch it on his own because he fell asleep for 3/4 of the movie.
Poor form.
And there's so much. There's so much you can talk about this movie. I mean, you can talk about the color palette. That's so
really
wild.
It's just like constantly changing, which is a very marked contrast to Blade 1 that was like blue throughout.
Yeah, it was very blue or very neutral in a lot of in a lot of the vampire scenes. It was very like Silicon Valley,
and then
which is interesting.
Yeah, but in a sense,
there's a kooky, and then in the kooky third act, like the lighting suddenly changed.
Yeah, there was.
But this is definitely a more dynamic in the way the film actually looked.
There was a lot of. And this is, I guess, just a personal preference, but there were a lot of very sweaty yellows and greens, and I really...
Sweaty is a good word for
I
it.
like those. Yeah. I like that tone. In
dirty.
films.
You don't see that in too many movies.
No, like the
grimy,
the very grimy yellow overtones, and like very, very... sweaty, humid greens.
Overloaded purples, too.
Yeah.
Like, there's a few of those.
Yeah, the oversaturated purples are very cool. The blue that was turned up so much that everybody on the screen looked like chalk dust. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that was just like Hollywood night.
Oh, yeah. No, it's things that you don't see in everyday movies. They usually stick with the blue-orange and just roll with it throughout.
It's like a lot of movies do like your traditional like realistic palette and then just heighten it a little bit, and then for the important scenes skew blue-orange. But this was doing some very interesting things where you had like really deliberate color choices, especially in one of the initial scenes where the vampire ninjas that were also insanely Del Toro because they're like as they're caterwauling across the ceiling,
which was a very good critique that we had. Like halfway through, we're like, wait, why don't they keep those ninja outfits for the whole movie?
Why did the Blood Pack not wear the ninja suits in the sewer? Because that it clearly withstood UV light. That was a very poor decision on their part.
We have this technology. Let's just not use it.
Everybody can get like half burned on the face or murdered. It's fine.
We used it once. It's not cool anymore.
Yeah, more or less. So
Oh,
yeah,
God, it's the D&D stuff coming in. But
Oh,
but
yeah,
no,
that's the voice that Theo uses when he plays D&T.
and
right.
it came up because, and by the way, my character is not at all based on this character.
But she's named Nissa.
Yeah, and it came out of nowhere for me because my character
Was it really nowhere?
Yes.
Was it really nowhere?
Yeah, because my character's named after the DC comic
Fair enough.
Ra's al
but, yeah.
Ghul's daughter,
Let's
a
break-
very different Nissa, which is
Talia.
also Talia's younger sister. In that scene, when Blade goes up to his room, and you have that very stark bright yellow and oversaturated blue, and it's like those. Okay, realistically, that's never going to happen.
Never ever.
No.
That's
Yeah.
not how light works. That's not
Right.
how colors work.
No.
But from a purely stylistic standpoint, that's beautiful. That was
Amazing.
That was a
Yeah,
gorgeously shot scene.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. Okay, so it sums up that we're in agreement that Blade 2, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah? Yeah, I know.
I was in agreement before we started.
Exactly. All right, so
Okay,
I
I'm
guess the
gonna-
plan is Victor will have his own thoughts and he'll record his own thoughts and we'll tack those onto here.
I mean, maybe he'll come over to our side.
I'm
We
going to
don't know.
openly question whether or not agreeance is a word.
Agreement sentence?
That's it.
Yeah. It maybe, it may not be. I'm not positive.
Okay. So I hope you enjoyed listening to us. And I hope you enjoyed our take on the Blade franchise. The only two that matter, really. Who cares about House of Usher or...
I do want to see the
Blade
third
3.
one now that
Oh,
I've
yeah.
seen the second.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
worth... honestly, it's not a... I wouldn't say it's a...
Oh, wait, the one thing we didn't talk about
You're-
was
you're not gonna
Whistler.
Whistler.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
the-
Yeah, good
All
point,
of
good
the
point.
Whistler nonsense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
As in the first movie, he kills himself, to stave off the vampirism.
But not really.
But not really, because he's back in this one, but he's not exactly a vampire, and it's a stupid mess.
Because he became a vampire to stop from dying, but now he's not a vampire.
So he didn't shoot himself with silver or something like that.
Right. I think the entire idea is that the story works better if Whistler's there.
Yeah.
So Del Toro... I mean, it says that Goyer wrote the script.
I don't...
It didn't feel like Goyer... I mean, I've seen Goyer productions. It doesn't feel like a Goyer script.
Yeah.
There had to be some doctoring going on there.
You know what
by
would've-
somebody...
If you ask me, it's the type of thing where Del Toro saw the first one. He's like, "Oh, I like Whistler. Let's bring him back in this." But he's like, "Oh, how's it work?" Yeah,
Yeah, no.
nah.
And that's...
I
You know
feel
what?
like they could
That's...
have replaced him with a similar character, like Blade's father. Maybe that'd be interesting.
Yeah, or well, they
Nah.
use Scud in this as kind of like the
Well, yeah.
new Whistler.
No, he's
in
talking
a
about...
position, but he's not a character.
He's
archetype.
talking about somebody specifically taking Whistler's position.
True. Yeah,
which would be
I get that.
interesting, but also you don't get, Christopherson and Snipes
That's
have
true.
chemistry.
Yeah, they do.
So
Good
you
point.
couldn't really do that.
Well, think about this: Blade's dad, and they can call him Sword.
One step above Blade.
I'm physically wounded by you suggesting that. But yeah.
And he can have a brother named
it's-
Shield.
I mean, we understand that the point is that you needed Chris Christopherson in this movie, or whoever wrote the script needed Chris Christopherson in this movie.
And so they kind of worked him
so
into it.
they just loaded up on MacGuffins and did
Probably
what
the
they
weakest
needed to
part
do.
of the movie, if you ask me.
Yeah, no,
it's
absolutely.
them trying to whittle him into it.
finagle that weird Whistler
But they
story.
did in the first 10 minutes, and then it was pretty much he's just
Yeah,
here
it's-
now.
And it comes up. I mean, I know. I think either you or Victor, or possibly both, were bringing it up. Why is he not a what?
What
None
is
of
he
this,
now?
What's going on? Does he have
I had-
vampire strength? What's
I
happening?
had I had a theory where he shot himself with a silver bullet before he turned, so it didn't kill him; it just lodged in him like Teddy Roosevelt, and then he
turned and then
that
pushed it
healed
out.
Yeah, like Wolverine. So it was a combination of Teddy Roosevelt and Wolverine.
I mean, it's
is
not a
what I hinge
terrible
on.
theory. I think the thing that I respect the most about Blade 2 is that it prizes emotion over story.
Good point. Yeah, it's a character-driven piece.
Yeah,
Yeah, in a
it's it's much more of a character piece than the original one. It's not about plot. It's about
no prophecy, no giant fat vampires for
No great big fat kids.
no weird corpulent vampires. That's with no explanation. That's a plus.
Now it's like you got rid of all the cons of the first one, and you made everything a little bit better.
Yeah. Also, this villain is because. And I should say this because I spent so much time when we were talking about Blade 1 criticizing Deacon Frost because he's a terrible villain.
He's just whatever. He's
the worst. This villain's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
He's so good. Nomad is like, God, he's an amazing villain.
Mm-hmm.
Like because
how would you describe it? Like you give me a little bit more than just he's good. He's more.
I mean he's kind of a villain in a classic like Victorian or opera fashion, where he's the scion of a great family that's like a prodigal son who's coming back for revenge. But we're not getting that story, which is also fascinating.
Yeah.
And you could make a movie out of that story. We're not getting that story. We're getting the family trying to clean up their mess and hiring some rando dude that they know can at least get the job done to come in and take care of it. And then there's also that weird thing about the Daywalker kidney blood nonsense at the end. So it's like kill two birds with one stone.
No, it doesn't get as ridiculous as the first one.
The fact is, like, I think the problem with that bit of like plot juggling at the end is that people didn't trust the people who wrote it didn't trust the audience to be invested if Blade was just incidental to the entire story. Yeah, which we could be. I mean, he's this wandering warrior.
Instead, they had to put him in
like
a pseudo chosen one position.
No, exactly. That's what makes Fury Road so great. Is that Mad Max is incidental to that story.
Oh, he doesn't need to be in there,
and he stays incidental because that's who he is. He's this nomad. He's this wandering warrior. I think Blade 2 comes from the same kind of it's trying to tell the same type of story where Blade should be totally incidental to this story. But this is a family story.
Yeah.
But
they
made him part of it because his name's in the title, which fair enough, but we can see that you cannot do that and it becomes awesome.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I think we learned a little bit about ourselves and Blade.
Yeah. What would you rate Blade 2?
Good points. Yeah, we should do that. This movie, well, my gut feeling is saying I feel it's better than the first one, so I'm going to say like 8.5. When I said 8 the first time. Because it didn't obliterate my brain, which is what a 9 should do. or 10 in that matter. But 8.5 is what I'd say. Andrew?
I'm gonna give it 2 out of 2 Amazing Spider-Mans.
All right, so it's on.
Indisputable. Nobody's gonna be like, "Oh, I don't think that's right. I think it wasn't as good as the Amazing Spider-Man." No,
indisputable.
Most people will say that it's better than the Amazing Spider-Man. It's the metric I would use.
Do you stick with what you said before? Like this was a 5 compared to the 4 that was Blade?
Yeah, I would give this 5 out of 5 PVC/latex enthusiasts. That's
fair. There were so many dead cows in this movie.
Okay, yeah, that's leather.
So many.
There was a lot of leather. There was also a lot of PVC and latex, especially in the
so many
nightclub scene.
Yeah, nightclub. We had a bigger nightclub scene.
There was a lot of latex going on.
I will give that to Blade 1. I thought the intro was a little bit just stronger in terms of kind of vibe and tone that it had to it.
Yeah, there's discussion to be had there, because it did have better energy, but it was also a rave.
Yeah, right.
Going into a rave carries a certain sort of energy, whereas in this one, we're going into a nightclub, which has an established sort of culture and
a certain decorum.
Well,
when you rock up to the club,
to a certain extent, yes.
Right.
I mean, this is it's a static place. You go to this place and you expect to find a certain scene happening, which is different from a rave where you can show up and it happens, and then you go back the next day and nothing's there. It's a very different energy. Whereas this one did a lot of really cool, weird world building where you had people putting razor blades on their tongue before kissing, and there was a lot of
tattoos and different
there's tattooing going on.
yeah.
There was a lot of live skin flensing, which was weird.
Things coming out of vampires.
Yeah, because you had
Just
somebody
because
with
they're
their
vampires.
whole spine
out,
visible as they were flensing flesh away from them.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting world that
Which,
Del Toro
yeah,
depicts.
It's really interesting, but it also makes sense for a group of people who can just heal indefinitely and live forever.
Yeah, right.
That sort of extreme body modification. This might be the extreme body mod club of the vampire subculture.
Or it could just be like a middling sort of thing.
Yeah, and they could go more extreme in other clubs, and this is just the middle of the road part of it. Because to be fair, that wasn't the main feature. That was just something that was happening in different places.
One of the things that Del Toro does best is world building in terms of very small details that you can then extrapolate on.
Yeah,
which is a good world building.
You
don't want to give the people too much.
Like Pacific Rim is a lot like that also.
Yeah, they say, oh hey, we worship. There's some people that worship these aliens, and that's all he says. And then you say, what do you mean by that? There's a whole.
He world builds effortlessly.
Yeah, he world builds from the bottom up, whereas people like George Lucas or J.R.R. Tolkien would world build from the top down.
Yeah, as in all the world building you see before you.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, no, that sums up pretty well. We're all in agreement that Blade 2 wins. Let's hopefully, in addition to this, we'll get a recording of Victor giving his thoughts about Blade 2 versus.
God, it's like the Supreme Court. We're waiting for the dissenting opinions.
You can always check out Theo on A Matter of Taste podcast if you'd hear his thoughts on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
for offering that.
I'm the host. I know what I'm doing.
Be glad to come back if you guys ever want to do something.
Thank you for joining us on this
like that.
This Blade escapade.
We have returned for our conclusion to GenreBot Watches Blade.
Yes.
The team is Adam, Victor, and Andrew.
Yes, your standard GenreBot team.
Yes.
Yeah, so as the timeline goes, we watched the two movies. Victor fell asleep for the second one. We share our thoughts with Theo, and now he has watched the second one and is prepared to share his thoughts with us.
Yes, I will say I am sorry for you guys, for myself, and for our listeners. I'm actually shocked.
I made to apologize.
I made
to
it
God.
through. I made it through a whole movie and then part of a second one. That's good for me. I'm the guy that falls asleep in movies. But no, I actually had already seen it before, but I did rewatch it for the sake of reacting right after seeing it again.
Okay. So we want to know, what are your thoughts on Blade 2?
Well, I feel like my reaction will be a combination of not surprising, but maybe a little. As far as which one's better,
Sounds
which I know is what we're going to be going for.
Yeah.
I think there are things about the second one that are better. But I feel like the more contrasts that I draw between them, the more I feel like I don't really want to compare them. The more I feel like they're very different.
Yeah.
Like Blade 2 is very different. Because if you try to put them both in the same category, then all you're gonna do is make it look like okay, if you want to say which one's a better superhero movie, hands down Blade 2. Right?
Yeah.
Blade 2
In that
stripped everything off of the first movie that wasn't superhero stuff.
And then replaced
and filled it with superhero stuff.
Yeah, pretty
so
much.
because even the intro sequence to Blade 2 was just him saying okay, so everything that the first movie was about and everything you learned will be summarized in the next few sentences. So it's it established right away. It's okay, get over the first movie. We're starting over, and nothing really was a continuation. It was all everything's new conflict, new enemy, new approach.
Yeah, in retrospect, they are really two very, very comparable, or rather, in the fact they're so uncomparable. Like movies to contrast with each other.
You can compare them.
Or rather,
they're movies about the same guy who kills vampires, and let me tell you, one of them's better.
But here's the thing.
A lot of parallels.
The only thing about the two movies that I really see in common is the character of Blade. He was the same Blade in both movies.
Yeah.
That was it.
Whistler's different in the second one.
Yeah, Whistler's way more toned down.
I don't know why they brought him back in the second one.
I still don't understand
It's
that.
because he's basically Alfred. And
but
it's if you're gonna kill Alfred, more, then keep him dead.
Yeah, they killed him in the first one, and then the second one is like, no,
But
the vampires brought him back?
They also did a very poor job of explaining how he's alive.
Yes.
Well, actually, it started off fine. They're like, oh, it was too late. He turned, so he survived the shot. And I'm like, okay, so he's a vampire. And they're like, no. And I'm like... And like I was specifically like because especially since I was alone now, very alone. I was actually in my fiance's spare bedroom of her apartment in the dark, watching this movie alone for the sake of paying attention. And I'm like, yeah, that's really poorly explained. But then it's like whatever.
He died from the gunshot, but he then turned, so it was kind of in a gray area. So
no, because there was that scene where he like made him like quit the blood cold turkey, and it's like that's not how it works.
Yeah, well,
it's so
we're not going to get to the bottom of that here.
Yeah, so all right, but
what do you think of the Del Toro-ness of it? Because we noticed a lot of that.
Again, that's what to me made it feel like such a drastically different movie. It kind of took away my ammunition for comparing them because I'm like, okay, the first movie's goal was to establish a universe, to go down to its core and help you like get immersed in like this is Blade's world and this is who Blade is. And the second one was just like, okay, yeah, you know who Blade is. Let's put him in this other situation and see how he deals with it. And it's cool. I feel like that was it. Blade is cool, the movie. You know, like that.
But here's the thing:
was it.
Blade 2 is all Del Toro-y, and Blade 1 is kind of like the directions like a lot of like. Simple angles and like blue lighting a lot. So which visual tone do you like better?
If you want me to be totally honest, I actually prefer the visual tone of the first movie better because I think it worked better as a vampire movie with a superhero in it. Whereas the second movie was a superhero movie with vampires in it, you know.
See, I would disagree. I like the second one better.
You like
You didn't ask me
for that purpose.
Okay,
that's an entirely subjective point.
Right.
Yeah. Which style did you like better?
Right.
Exactly.
And also, the other thing is, I feel like another thing that kind of takes away, like kind of defangs me, is that the first...
That was planned.
If
that
the
was
first
not organic.
movie,
If
the first movie had a better third act, I would be like, I would be on a hilltop and I would be like, you can't touch this movie. But that's the thing. It's like, it's 2/3 of a great movie. And the second one is consistently the same level of good.
Yeah.
However good you think that is.
How do you think the stories compare to the two? Because I really think the second story really subverts the first one. Like, does more cool things.
I was about half into the second one story. Because being a vampire hunter is cool enough. You didn't have to immediately make it obsolete. You didn't have to immediately be like, oh, well, now there's super vampires. And
which still sounds so childish.
And
they were cool, like the Reapers with their jaws that open up.
Yeah,
and they turn vampires into super vampires, and we're getting layered here. And I'm like, you know,
I like how the vampires are like, oh man, now I know what that feels like.
That's our thing, man.
This really bites.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they say. They all talk. They all talk in puns.
But okay, that was hokey. But there were things about it that I thought were pretty sweet.
It's such a stupid idea, but it actually works.
Yeah, the vampire team up thing, where it's like, we were training this team to take you down, but now we need you to lead them. And I was like, that's sweet. Like, that's an awesome
really
idea.
cool.
But why couldn't it be against, like, okay, because they said this was like the only nod that the first movie happened other than Whistler's dad. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, thanks for taking care of Frost. That was a real pain in our butts. And you did us a favor. And it's like, no, they implied in the first movie that Frost like annihilated all the leadership. And in this one, they're like, no, they didn't get they didn't get Baron Strucker over here. And what do you call it? So okay, that was a little weird and annoying. But at the same time, it made me just think, like, okay, so vampires have trouble with these zealots that try to usurp power. Couldn't that just be another thing? There's another guy like Frost who's trying to, like, and it could be vampires against vampires.
Well, they didn't. The thing is, they didn't rehash the same thing. They took a new story on the line. They didn't hang over to it.
True, but I feel like what bothered me about it was, like, the whole time I kept thinking, like, well, in the end of all this, Blade's just gonna kill them all, right? Like, well, now that that's taken care of, you know, bang, 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 you know, like...
Yeah, you can see it playing out, kind of.
Yeah, like, you want to talk about layers? Why don't we start like having Blade learning that his rage about vampires might be misplaced? Like maybe having some is okay. Maybe it's more like they're emotional and some might not be bad people.
The second one isn't really as much of a character piece as the first one.
Not at all.
No,
Like
it's very shallow,
very
characters.
objective based. It's like, well, there's a problem and here's how it's dealt with.
And having watched the first one,
I'll say this
I
though.
see more characters in that. Yeah,
I think any franchise is improved by introducing Ron Perlman as a character.
very true.
And every scene with him in it was tremendous. So I will say that's probably my favorite part of Blade 2 is Ron Perlman.
That's a Del Toro bit.
I think that
Drink.
the romance thing was completely phoned in.
That was one of those. Why
need
do you
it.
need that subline?
In fact, I actually remember that being a thing when I was watching where suddenly somebody mentioned something about her in the nature of like, yeah, but like what are you going to do about her? Something drew your attention to that, and I was like, wait, where'd that come from?
I did like the visual of her like turning to ash in his arms though.
That was
It's
pretty
like
cool.
I feel like it
you've been
would've-
seeing a movie where like a vampire turning to ash is like, oh yeah, that's just whatever. That's what
when
they
they-
do. And then this time it's like same visual, same thing going on, but like it's sad.
It's a different meaning to it.
In the first movie, vampires disintegrating was more like they very like rapidly turn to dust.
They had like super sunburn.
And in
per
the
sec.
second one, it was more explosive, like they burst into flames and then turn to dust. So in that case, which I'm fine with, but in that case, I felt like that scene he should have been a little bit more wincy in pain. Like this thing, it would have been like
that.
like holding fireworks, basically. Like it would have been like, okay, not
This
as
is
romantic
sad.
as I pictured.
I'm so sad and in pain. No. He can just go like, I will work through the pain. It's me, Wesley Snipes.
A lot of that.
That's
yeah.
a small. That's not me like trying to.
No, that's just a point.
Something I noticed. I mean, both movies are full of holes.
Yeah. You see, there's one.
Full of bite marks.
I don't know. I think the first movie had a lot more of just like what is this scene doing in here? The one with him interrogating the giant fat vampire.
Yeah.
Like I still
It's funny though.
to an extent,
It's
but
gross.
Also-
No. I'll stake this claim. Fat people are gross.
Well, wait. Remind me because
the claim.
at this point it
Get
was
it?
like a couple weeks ago. Didn't I ask Theo like, "Hey, is this like a reference to a comic character?"
yeah. During the
And didn't
episode,
he say no?
He said no. This is nothing to
Because
do
like
with
that
anything.
would have explained it. That would have been like,
But it doesn't. No,
it's a reference.
It's
but
in there for no
it
reason.
Totally wasn't
it's,
a reference.
It's awkward. It's weird. I didn't have any
Why
moments
does
like
he talk
that.
like a chipmunk?
I didn't have any moments like that in the second one, where I said, oh, like, what's this doing? Why is this here?
I felt like Norman Reedus's betrayal was like the most obvious thing in the world.
Something like that.
I was
yeah.
like, and then when he's like, "I suspected you from the moment you turned," I'm like, "No, no,
You didn't know any
you're
of it.
just saying that."
Yeah.
Like, come on.
But you like the third act of Blade 2 better than Blade 1?
Well, the way I put it is Blade 2 is a very consistent movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the quality doesn't really go too far up or down. It kind of goes right here.
Which is interesting because Blade
And
1,
Blade
it has
1
spikes of bad.
Blade 1, yeah, is like for me, I consider like the first two acts to be pretty like, yeah, it's my jam. Pretty cool, with like that gritty, mysterious kind of stuff going on. Establishing the universe, and then it drops very low. In the third act, it just becomes like I'll be honest, most of the time when I watch Blade 1, I turn it off at that point.
Yeah.
And I but like
So, honestly, on average, the two would probably be about the same. In like,
yeah,
they're over there.
yeah. If it was a
overlap.
score system,
Yeah.
like it's why, like I said, like after watching the second one, I really don't. I don't really know how to answer the which one is better question because it depends on what you're asking. Which one's more consistent? Blade 2. Which one's a better superhero movie? Blade 2. Which one's more fun? Probably Blade 2.
Which one has a more unique aesthetic to it?
Yeah.
Blade 2.
Yeah.
Well, see that one, I don't know what I would answer.
Oh, well, it depends on how you define that question.
What are you into? Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought Blade 1 was a pretty good origin movie.
I like the color palettes of Blade 2. We talked a lot
Yeah,
about
I didn't
that.
like the color
yeah.
palette of Blade 1 as much.
Yeah, because it's basic. Or rather, nowadays, we see a lot of blue-orange. Blue-orange everywhere.
It almost
It's a lot of weird, like, just pre-dawn lighting that made me feel uncomfortable in Blade 1. And that's not, like, it's, like, uncomfortability can be, like, a thing that you aim for in, like, a horror movie with monsters.
True.
This almost makes me think of have either of you played any of the Arkham games? Arkham Asylum, Arkham City.
I've seen it done.
Yeah.
Arkham Asylum was this really good game. Had problems, but like it was solid, really good. And it's like one of those games that I don't want to poke holes because I just enjoyed it. You know, kind of how I feel about Blade 1. And then Arkham City comes around, and Arkham City kind of took what already existed and just built on it, changed some things, went in a different direction. And it's just a game that is just all around just better. But it's hard for me to... Like, I feel like when I say that, I feel like I'm diminishing the first one. And in this case, it's like, I feel similarly where it's like, okay, fine. So the sequel kind of, I feel like the reason the sequel is better is because it's doing what the first movie should have done in the first place. First movie should have been more of a superhero movie.
So
Blade 2 was like, well, let's fix that. And it's like, but you could have actually gone another way. You
a whole different
you
direction.
could have made a sequel that was more like a sequel to Blade 1.
This is what we're talking about. This is what we were talking about earlier, where how like Blade kind of pioneered the modern day superhero.
So it course
genre.
corrected.
Yeah, it did. But
Yeah,
that pretty
Blade
much
2 is
how it
really
goes.
responsible, more so, because Blade 1's a vampire movie, and Blade 2 is a superhero movie.
Which is again, that's
our kind of ultimate point that we're
Back
thinking.
then,
Kinda what it comes
'cause
down
back
to.
then
Which do you like more?
Because back then,
Yeah.
studios were like, "Oh no, superheroes. That's,
that's-
like Superman and Batman going around fighting Arnold
Well,
Schwarzenegger in underwear. That's dumb.
That's
you know what people
probably-
like? Really serious vampire movies. People will never make jokes about them.
that's probably what my thing is I mean, I'm all about superheroes, all about it, and I feel like vampires
Really
have
true,
such
listeners.
a
He's not joking.
no, really. I feel like when it comes to vampires, I find them to be really cool, but there's so few good vampire movies around. You know, like for
We
me,
made a
it's,
good one.
For me, it's like
we did.
I would rather watch a good vampire movie with a superhero in it. You know, because to me, it's like that's something newer, something a little fresher. But that's not the kind of movie you're going to get today. You're going to get more Blade 2s.
Yeah.
And I won't complain if they're good movies. That's why I don't complain about Blade 2. I never disliked it. I just never wanted to say, well, no, don't watch Blade 1 because Blade 2 is better. Like, I love Blade 1.
Yeah, no,
I will
I'd
always
honestly,
watch the
I wouldn't
first
say
Blade.
that either. Like,
Yeah.
the first two acts of Blade 1.
Yeah.
Never missed that. Third act.
I mean, and it's funny because we were all really disappointed because Blade, and this is something else that was not in Blade 2. In the first Blade could not go 5 minutes without some incredible one-liner.
oh yeah,
Like,
that's true.
some insanely good one-liner. And then
and they were in Blade 2, but they weren't as like
nowhere
as just
near
punch-
as,
punch.
just
Some people
in
are always
just
trying to ice skate uphill.
right. And then that's what I was gonna say is like his last one of the movie was so bad it made you forget how great all the other ones were. like come on, man.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, that was not as recaptured in the second one. So
Yeah.
Final consensus. I think we nailed it. As in like two very different movies, and it depends on your personal preference.
what do you want
Blade
out of
2
it?
is
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
We had one guy who said Blade 2 was better, another guy who said Blade 2 was better, and two guys who gave up.
Well,
No, because Adam always kind of, weren't you on the side of you thought 2 was better?
I thought 2 was better. I was kind of, 1 was not as bad as I remembered it was.
I think there.
But it was still. I'm still in.
I think
Blade
it's
2 fan.
apples and oranges, but one of them's like a pretty solid apple, and the other's like a great orange.
Well, when I rewatched Blade 2, it's funny how you remember things. I remember when I was much, much younger and I watched Blade 2, I was disappointed because I'm like, this isn't like the first one. And that's why, like, for years, I always was like, why do people like the second one so much better?
Here's your grudge,
So when
and now
I
you haven't
so
revisited
when I
them.
watched it, I'm like, well, okay, this is actually a lot better than I remember. But I still feel a similar feeling of, like, it doesn't quite feel like a spiritual successor to the first one.
I think that's the final tone that we have. It's that like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a lot better than it's like the one that I
Great
thought was
movie.
bad wasn't as bad. Like you learned that super vampires not as bad as you thought it would be.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be really stupid.
Yeah, and you learned Blade 2 not as bad.
Yeah.
And
I was like Blade 1 not as bad.
Another thing is the delivery. I feel like they did a pretty good job of pulling off the super vampire thing. It could have been dumb.
It could have been really dumb.
It could have been so dumb.
No, well handled.
So it was okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that's
Katie. What's better, Blade 1 or Blade 2?
They're both awesome.
All right.
There it
We
is.
have a final consensus from
Solved.
Vic's sister.
That actually is it.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed listening to this GenreBot special. Check out more on the YouTube channel. We're coming up with a live vid that we did, live.
Oh yeah,
we did like a
we've-
brief.
We've started.
We've got more specials for you coming up soon.
Yeah, we're starting.
Yeah.
We're starting to branch out. You innovate.
All right, look forward to those. Catch you later.
Later.
Bite.